We tried to create that real emotional connection. We tried to show the why and the relevance of the cause, but in ways that people would understand it. So the tricky thing about domestic abuse is that people think they know what it is and they think they understand it, but actually most people don't. That's how we structured all the pitch. And it was so important that we just kept taking things out. We made it tighter and tighter and tighter and asked ourselves that question. Does this tick the why? Does this impact and scale? And does this show us as a brilliant partner? And if it was none of them, it's out. And there's an element to it as well of authenticity just comes from trust. We knew each other. We knew what we were representing. We were all really excited. We were all really motivated. Like if we were excited about this, we'd tell them. We'd tell them that it's the biggest thing that's ever happened to us and that we really want it.
Hi, this is Rob. Welcome back to the Fundraising Bright Spots podcast. This is the show for fundraisers who want ideas and maybe a dose of inspiration to help you raise more money and really enjoy your job. This is episode 174. Now, if your charity raises funds through corporate partnerships, or you ever have to put together a pitch or presentation and the stakes are high, I think you're going to find this episode really interesting. I recently talked to a smart and very experienced fundraiser named Katie Hillitt, who works for the UK charity Refuge. Refuge is a wonderful charity that provides specialist support for women and children experiencing domestic violence. I've known Katie for many years, and in the last 12 months I've also enjoyed getting to know two of her corporate partnerships team, who've taken part in our Corporate Partnerships Mastery Programme. I was keen to talk to Katie because in recent months her team has created the chance to pitch for 3 extremely valuable partnerships, and I'm thrilled to be able to tell you they've been successful in all 3. As you're probably all too aware, pitching is a complex and difficult skill, especially when the stakes are this high. One of these wins is a transformational partnership worth millions of pounds, and it's going to make an amazing difference to the women and children that Refuge serves. Irrespective of the scale of partnerships you're aiming for, to share some ideas to help with your own pitches, I invited Katie to explain the approach that's been successful for them. Now, just before we get into it, I'd like to say a massive thank you to everyone who's been posting about our podcast on LinkedIn, or who sent me a message about it in the last couple of weeks. Honestly, it makes such a difference when you're able to spread the word about these resources to help other good causes. So, to name just a few in the UK, a big thank you to Chris Avanti, Neil Jarrett, Hayley Wallbank, Bella Waitley, Mark Yarrow, Annabelle Holloway, Chris Salt and Erica Vitae. And in Australia, a big shout out to Catherine Ritchie, Christy Welsh and Lauren Cara George. I know there are so many more of you in our lovely Bright Spot community across the world, and I'm sorry not to be able to squeeze in any more mentions now, but do know that I appreciate you all. Hi Katie, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hello, Rob. Great, thank you.
So Katie, I've been looking forward to this chat for a while. You've had a wonderful year, but before we get into some of the ideas that might help our listeners, where do you work and what's your role?
So I'm Katie Hillitt and I'm head of philanthropy at the domestic abuse charity Refuge.
Okay, and you and I have got to know each other quite a bit over the years at various conferences and various courses and so on. And I note that you've had some really wonderful results in the last year or so. In a moment, let's get into unpacking some of the things that you think might have helped. But just to set the scene, what are some of the things that you're pleased with?
I think the things that we're most pleased with at Refuge is the transformational journey we've been on with some of our corporate partnerships. So we've done 3 particularly memorable pitches in the last few months to quite different audiences. So one is a corporate foundation, one is a strategic charity of the year, and another one is a transformational media-based partnership. So they're all quite different levels of funding and different stages, but we're just really proud of actually progressing those pitches, and some of them have been successful and some of them have got us through, say, down to the final 2, and we have not really pitched very much before, and definitely not like going in cold as new relationships. So that's what we're really pleased with, the success and the progress we're making there.
Yes, well done, Katie. And from the couple of members of your team who I know, there's also an energy and a momentum that your team are experiencing, but it's also results, isn't it? Maybe you won't be able to give exact details, but broadly, what kind of value are we talking?
So the first one was sort of 380k over 3 years. And the second one that was more of a strategic charity of the year type, we are anticipating being in the region of sort of 1.5 million over 3 years. And then the biggest one will be into the millions over 2 years. So like a genuinely transformational partnership for Refuge.
Oh my goodness. So this is amazing. And it's also true. It's easier to have a momentum and a confidence when you're winning rather than when you're doing many of the right things and it's still not quite going your way, which our listeners will absolutely empathise with. But huge congratulations to you and your team who've worked so hard on this stuff. And I know that a couple of your colleagues have come on our training programmes in the last couple of years anyway, and it's been wonderful to work with them. And they've been implementing some of those ideas. And then also my colleague Ben came and shared some things in-house with you.
Yes, certainly. Having my team members go on the mastery courses has been absolutely amazing because they've come back buzzing with those contacts that they've made, these ideas that they've made, and the innovations they've got from other charities that they're bringing back. And also, we brought Ben in to help us just specifically on the pitching stages, because for us, we had not really done many pitches at all. We had long-term partners that we knew, and we had done renewals and upgrades, but actually really going in quite cold. And the scale of these opportunities for us was really important. They were big ones, and we really wanted to be successful.
So, Katie, tell me about one of these big opportunities. How did you make it happen?
Well, we knew that we had something to offer that was really exciting, but we didn't have a way in. There was no formal application process. It was a bit opaque how we got in. So I decided that we would just go in through LinkedIn to find the right contacts and make a cold approach to a senior stakeholder, and also just say, you know what? You really need to work with Refuge. We can offer something brilliant and do a brilliant partnership with you. So that's what we did. We kind of started a conversation and opened it. And then they came back to us and said, you know what? Actually, we are missing not having a women and girls charity on our books. What can we do? And then they bumped us into their contact. We opened up those conversations, and it just turned out to be like also an element of luck. It was lucky timing. They were thinking about partners and new ones and what they were doing. So that was fantastic for us. But we really went about it by trying to really do our insight first. Like, is this the kind of partnership we want? What could it deliver for us? Would it be transformational? What other charities have benefited from these kinds of partnerships? So we knew that we wanted to work with them for a start. We knew we needed to find a way in. And in the end, we couldn't find anybody. Nobody had any connections. Nobody knew anybody. We were like, well, we're just going to have to just put ourselves out there.
I think it's brilliant. And crucially, you just started a conversation. I agree. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you're really focused on which partners would be the right fit and you just try to start a conversation and you're persistent, we've found it's amazing how often it works. And that can be really quite brief to just somehow start the conversation. Later on, how did it pan out? What did the opportunity turn into in terms of needing to actually prepare a pitch?
Well, for us, it started off as a conversation. They didn't know us at all, so it was trying to build that together and then having a couple of conversations about what could we do. So actually, what was interesting for us is that the things that we originally thought would be the things that were attractive to them turned out not to be. We did one sort of low-key pitch where we went through 3 different ideas and said, oh, it could be this or it could be that. And actually, what they chose and what they wanted to go for wasn't the thing that we expected them to go for, which was an interesting learning for us. And then that helped us to shape those questions, like really trying to understand why, what would work for the audience, what would, how do we create an amazing media and fundraising based partnership around this idea? Having those sort of open discussions about why this was interesting to them, what they thought was great. What do you like about this? What do you like about us? You can't assume that. And having that insight was just really, really important. We spent a lot of time thinking about the what's in it for me from their position, making sure that we had a win-win proposition that would work for us as well. I think that was really, really important.
This makes sense, Katie. So you're learning a lot. You've discovered that they may be interested in different things than what you may have realised. and there's a conversation, but how did you take things to the next stage?
Well, at this point, then what happened was we were actually in their process. So we needed to send some documentation. It's like with all these processes, there was like an application. We needed to make sure that we met the right criteria, gave the right information about our organisation and what we're doing and how it might work. So we did that stage, and then we got through to the point where we obviously made it onto a short list, and then we were invited to pitch, which was really exciting for us. And it was at this point that we realised, actually, hang on a minute, we might need a bit of help here with this pitching to essentially partners who they didn't really know us, we didn't really know them. As part of the process, it was clear that we weren't going to get much opportunity to sort of influence around the sides or set the scene. It was very much, okay, great, now bring your pitch. So at that point, we spoke to Bright Spot and we spoke to Ben, and we said, you know what, Ben, how can we get the best out of what we're trying to present, show our expertise? And then for us as well, we just needed that support and that headspace to help us to get into the right place to do the most successful pitch, because we were very busy fundraisers doing busy things every single day, and actually knew that we really needed to give this our best shot and take the time. So by bringing in the techniques and creating that headspace to be a pitch crew, that really helped.
Yeah. And in terms of creating that pitch that ultimately was successful, what do you think are some things that you worked hard on and that really helped it work?
I think the key things were, like, we tried to create that real emotional connection. We tried to show the why and the relevance of the cause, but in ways that people would understand it. So the tricky thing about domestic abuse is that people think they know what it is and they think they understand it, but actually most people don't. So actually just getting over that hurdle was quite hard. And one of the ways that we did it, we showed newspaper headlines that had happened, all the stories, like the stories are in the news every week about different cases that are really shocking and awful. And it was at the time that the Giselle Pellico case was getting a lot of prominence as well. So we took a selection of little headlines and we put them all on a slide, and you just couldn't hide away from the fact that we were trying to get across the fact that this issue was, you know, a national emergency. It was really important. It was something that was very live and that it needed addressing. You couldn't argue with the issue to start with, and we wanted to show it in a way that people would be seeing and experiencing it in their lives to make that connection. And then the other thing that we wanted to do was really make sure that we had brought the human element to life. So like the impact of what we were trying to propose was really, really important to us. And the way that we did that was create a linear journey by involving lived experience in our pitch. So we worked really closely with our survivor engagement team to make sure that we could bring in a person who could say the difference that Refuge had made or why it really mattered that we did this. And it's not always easy to bring in someone with lived experience, and we wanted to make sure that we had the right person who understood what we were trying to do, and it was absolutely amazing. We set up like a mini interview with this person as part of the pitch. She very much shaped the brief. We covered all those things of what are you comfortable sharing, what would you like to say, you know, what would be the next level that you went to if you were comfortable in the meeting itself. We did all of that. And I think that was really important, not only to have her on the call and to support us, but to bring to life the difference that the project was going to make. It was really crucial.
Yeah, it's not easy, is it? I think many of our listeners know that these kinds of real examples can make all the difference to someone connecting to what's at stake here. But doing it practically is not always easy in any case, let alone the high pressure stakes of a pitch situation. And crucially, doing it in a way that's appropriate and respectful to the person you're inviting to come and share what they'd like to share.
Exactly. I think that is a really key point. And we made sure that when we were involving our survivor and the survivor engagement team, it was right from the beginning. That person was in that meeting where we were talking about the pitch, where we were planning the pitch. It wasn't that we inserted her at a point and she dropped in and dropped out. She was central to the whole process. She understood what we were doing. She gave us advice. She was as much part of the team as everyone. And I think that really shone. At the end of the pitch, they asked us a Q&A, the quick Q&A with her. Like she was part of us and our team. And we all brought different things to that team. And she brought her lived experience, but she was as much as part of the team. And I think that was the difference.
Thank you, Katie. And I wonder how you might sum up the crux of that problem that you wanted this potential partner to solve.
Well, that was quite hard for us because there's so much noise in your organisation with different stats and different bits of information, and we really wanted to boil things down to simplicity. And actually what we realised is that we could take that information and we could crunch that data and we could make it really clear that the message is for survivors who are brave enough and courageous enough to take the steps to leave their abusers, that actually the reality is, due to a lack of capacity and resources, every 2 hours someone is being turned away from a specialist refuge place that they need. And actually that for us was the crux that brought together the data and the emotional impact that we needed to trigger that sense of injustice, that it's not fair that someone who is taking those brave steps and reaching out for help, that Refuge is there for them. And actually what we might end up doing is putting someone in temporary accommodation or putting someone in a hotel and not having the specialist spaces that they need to go to. And actually what all our partners who fund our work can do is create that specialist support that they need, that they deserve. And I think that for us was really the crux of it. So, the problem could seem too big, it was huge versus what the solution could be, but showing how this solution was so compelling against that problem was the thing that I think really tipped it over the line.
Hi, it's Rob, and in case you work in high value fundraising, I need to let you know we're now down to the last few places still available for Corporate Partnerships Mastery and Major Gifts Mastery, which start again from mid-May 2025. And if you're listening to this in early April and you're quick, you can still take advantage of the super early discount worth £400. But please be aware that to qualify for the discount, you need to get in touch by Friday the 11th of April 2025. Instead of me telling you about the difference that these programs can make to your results, I thought it would be most interesting if you could hear directly from someone who's done one of them. So here is a short clip from Magda Pieta, who is Corporate Partnerships Manager at the climate charity Cool Earth, talking about the difference that Corporate Partnerships Mastery made for her. She told us that her charity had previously applied 2 or 3 times to be a partner of Jingle Jam, and each time those applications had been unsuccessful. This is a partnership that's worth £250,000.
It's just been a really, really positive experience, really great for building up my confidence and just building up a new support base with newer businesses that might have not heard of us before. We've been selected as one of the partner charities for this year's Jingle Jam, which is super exciting, massive opportunity for us. All those things that you learn throughout the course, you can then apply in real life and they do work.
To find out more about Corporate Partnerships Mastery or Major Gifts Mastery, go to brightspotfundraising.co.uk/services. But please do it today because the deadline for the discount is Friday the 11th of April. Now, after seeing hundreds and hundreds of pitches over the years and doing various courses on this subject, I've noticed that one of the hardest things to do for a charity is to not succumb to what we might call the curse of knowledge. In terms of a more academic or charity jargon style way of talking, but also in terms of quantity. It's really hard to keep the messages tight and just focused on the things that would help this audience today choose us, because there's all kinds of forces within a charity that want to share lots of different messages rather than seeing it from the point of view of the pitch panel this day. How did you go about keeping it that tight and focused?
Well, I'm not going to say it wasn't a challenge because it always is. And it's so tempting just to want to say what your charity's doing and how you're doing it rather than thinking about the why. And I think for us, there was one overarching principle that was really key. And it was that this partnership was unique. And this is why this partnership together makes the transformational impact. The whole time was really about it feeling like, and it really being the case, that you couldn't say no to this pitch because it was going to make a massive difference for you and for the charity, and that combination was truly unique and amazing. And that was the overarching golden thread. And then underneath that, I would say we focused everything onto 3 key pillars. And those pillars were the why that mattered so much and why now. the impact and scale of the partnership. So what was it actually going to do at the change that was going to happen? And then the final one was that Refuge ourselves were going to be a brilliant delivery partner. It's like, obviously, for any partner, they want to know that you're going to be great people to work with, that you're going to do a good job, and you're going to help them achieve their objectives, because everybody's busy. So actually, those were the 3 pillars that we really stuck to. And that's how we structured all the pitch. And it was so important that we just kept taking things out. We made it tighter and tighter and tighter, and asked ourselves that question. Does this tick the why? Does this impact and scale? And does this show us as a brilliant partner? And if it was none of them, we're like, it's out. So we really worked hard as well to change the way we talked about ourselves, because we wanted to talk to them as people based on the insight that we knew, the personality they have, and also who we are. And I think being your authentic self is the most important thing. We knew who they were, but we didn't try and shape ourselves too far from who we are. So it meant we held on to all our authenticity. And I think the thing that's really interesting when you look at the different partnerships across the 3 that we did is that you can tweak your persona a bit to fit in with, if you're a financial services organization, or if you're a charity looking for a big charity of the year, and woohoo, you can change and adapt yourself, but you still keep the core of who you are, and your message is slightly different. It might be slightly more formal, slightly more less formal. The slides change depending on what the requirements are, but we still manage to be our authentic selves. And in this particular big one, we kept those 3 pillars and we stuck to them.
Many of us have had the advice that we should just be ourselves or be more authentic. I wonder what that looked like in practice, because it's not always easy to do. How did you do that?
So in those early conversations, we were authentic to who we are. Like, we didn't pretend to be something that we're not. So we took those opportunities to build trust, get to know the contact at the organisation a bit better. But also, if we're a fabulous feminist workforce who drinks Diet Coke all the time, we just turn up and be that. We don't shy away from, I always wear my pink jacket, and we talk about our values, and we just try and be authentic in that way. And I think in the pitch, that authenticity also links into credibility. So what we did was think quite carefully about who was going to be on the pitch and which bits they were going to represent. And we wanted them to be themselves. So, for example, our programme director with 13 years experience on the front line at Refuge is going to talk about the impact of the programme in a very different way to how we might as a fundraiser. And actually, it's making space for that, allowing for that person to shine in the way that they like to be themselves and bring that. But at the same time, behind the scenes, ensuring that you've got those threads and they really understand the pitch structure and the pillars, and bringing it back really tightly. And there's an element to it as well of authenticity just comes from trust. We knew each other. We knew what we were representing. We were all really excited. We were all really motivated. If we were excited about this, we'd tell them. We'd tell them that it's the biggest thing that's ever happened to us and that we really want it. There's an element of authenticity that is just being a human and being truthful.
Yeah. I wonder if we could just go back a tiny bit to your 3 main ideas in terms of that challenge, the problem that your wonderful organisation addresses, and the opportunity that you laid before this partner if they chose to accept it. How would you sum that up?
I think for us it was that juxtaposition of the scale of the need was quite shocking, and some of the statistics was quite shocking. So there were people in that pitch who we had never met and we didn't know, and we struggled to get insight on who they were as well. So that didn't make it easy, especially on a cause like domestic abuse, when people very likely have lived experience and you don't know whether what you're doing to respond to that. But it's putting together the scale so huge and the transformational impact that they could have. We made it really clear that domestic abuse is underfunded, it doesn't get a huge amount of public profile, and that actually this was their opportunity to step into that and make that difference and make that seem like a compelling proposition rather than a reason to keep it in the shadows.
Yeah, thank you. One of the hardest things is managing the process internally, because in any one organisation, everyone's got good intentions, but they've got different perspectives on how to actually get things done. And that could be really hard work. I wonder if you could give us an insight on how this panned out for you.
I mean, I think that is so crucial, and it's always really hard behind the scenes to, to be the leader that's galvanizing a team and bringing together all the different elements and to do it as seamlessly as possible. I think what you got to do is create the buzz around the opportunity. You need to make sure people fully understand why this is transformational, what difference it would make. It just seems so obvious to you as a fundraiser, but also it's about building that team, bringing them along with you, making sure you're building trust and you're getting everybody's ideas about how does this work in practice? What could we do? You all need to kind of manifest that success and have a really shared understanding of what it looks like. And once we were building it and designing it and building the budgets and bringing everyone along, you're getting everyone really excited about it. And essentially for us, what was really crucial was it was their opportunity to miss out on and not ours to lose, which is the mindset part for the pitch. We went in thinking like, you can't say no to this because it's such an important cause and this is such an important project. And I think internally as well, if there are sticky conversations, have them one-on-one. Speak to the program director, speak to the finance people, say, what barriers do you think might come up with this? What are you worried about? How are you feeling about it? What can we do? Build that trust. And then also I think the key thing as well is celebrating the journey and not just focusing on the result. One of these opportunities, like I said, like we haven't won it yet, but we feel like we have because we're so proud of what we've done, and we came away thinking we've put our best selves forward, we've done the best we can. If we don't get it, it's because the fit's not right and it's not our moment, and that's okay.
Yeah, I see why it was successful. We are running out of time, Katie. I just wonder, you're an experienced fundraiser, you've worked really hard and you've learned so many interesting distinctions across your career. If you look back on some of these ideas that you've been implementing over the last year or so, if there's any other advice you have for our listener who recognises some of these challenges, they would love these wonderful transformational partnerships, and somehow these pitches are not falling in their lap or they're not managing if they get the chance to implement. Any last insight or skill or tip that might just help them?
I think my big tip is just don't be afraid to be bold and think big. Like, think about your big transformation opportunity, but also make sure that there's somebody out there who you think can make it happen. It's all well and good to have this brilliant idea, but actually you need to match it up with scoping of who could actually make this happen, and then make sure that you go really hard after that person and say, we need you to make this happen. You are the unique person, the unique partner. This is why it matters to you and to us and why we can do it together. So don't be afraid to sort of dream big and push those buttons, but also just accept that, celebrate the journey. You aren't going to win them all. We don't win them all, but that doesn't matter. Everything we win or don't win helps us learn, helps us refine, helps us be stronger. And, if you've got enough irons in the fire, you will win enough. And that's really the crux of it, I think.
Wise words, Katie. Well, a huge congratulations to you and all of your colleagues, because I know it's not just a fundraising effort, it's the whole organisation that comes together when these really big things are won. So massive congratulations to you and your charity. Thank you ever so much for kindly coming to share these insights to help our listeners. I really appreciate it. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Thank you.
There you go. I love this bright spot story, not least because it shows what becomes possible when you are skillful in crafting truly inspiring pitches. As we always do, we'll put a summary in the episode notes on the podcast section of our Bright Spot website, and we'll include a link to other episodes to help corporate fundraisers, including another episode that Ben and I created about how to create effective, persuasive presentations and pitches. If you need to grow corporate partnerships income for your charity, do check out our famous Corporate Partnerships Mastery Programme, which is the one that Katie's colleagues found so helpful. Through a combination of masterclasses, one-to-one coaching, and a wonderfully supportive peer group, this is a 6-month programme that helps you win and grow valuable partnerships. You can find out more at brightspotfundraising.co.uk/services. And if you've not already subscribed to our show, do click that button now. You'll get instant access to dozens more examples and techniques to help you grow fundraising success And we've got lots more inspiring stories to share in the next few weeks, so please don't miss out on the chance to receive those straight to your phone. Finally, if you found today's show helpful and you think it would help other people too, please do share it on with your team and on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the Fundraising Bright Spots show. Good luck with your fundraising, and I look forward to sharing more Bright Spot stories with you very soon.